In this election campaign, we've seen too many candidates from the Greens and Teals walking away from the microphone and camera when approached with very reasonable questions from the public or social media people or the mainstream media. We've shown you over the past few weeks some astounding video clips of the reluctance of Greens and Teals to answer even the most basic questions. And there's plenty more online. Accountability is core to healthy politics, and we must not reward politicians who run away from a microphone or a camera. The worst case of this I think I've ever seen in my career in media happened this week. Monique Ryan, the Teals member, she's already an MP for Kooyong in Melbourne, one of the so-called independents that are heavily funded by Simon Holmes Accord's Climate 200 political action fundraising group. She delivered this appalling performance this week on Sky News.
Let's just try. Look, we tried. I'm going to just do something a little bit different here. We did try to speak to Monique Ryan this morning. We asked her team whether it would be okay, as she hasn't taken up that invitation to us, but she is here. So we might just see if we can ask her this morning how their campaign is going. As you can see, the volunteers, this is the runway up into the early voting booth. I'll just ask Monique how she's going. Monique, hi. Hi, how are you going this morning? We're just live on Sky.
I'm actually just trying to...
Oh, yeah, we don't want to interrupt, but we just wanted to...
Is that right?
Yeah, we are. Well, in the interest of a bit of transparency, we just thought maybe we'd just want to know how your campaign's going this morning.
It's going well, thanks, Laura.
Yep.
But I am here to engage with voters. We're at pre-poll. It's the middle of the election campaign. So I'm not sure that it's really ideal for you to be interrupting that process.
Have you had any other thoughts about whether it's okay to pay influencers?
Thanks.
Sorry, Laura, she's already declined the interview.
Yeah, I know, but we are in public. This is in the interest of transparency, wouldn't you thought?
She's already declined the interview. If you could just go back to...
Okay, so we tried. We tried. So this is the only voting booth in Hawthorn. Monique Ryan obviously doesn't want to talk to us this morning. We're not here to ask her any tricky questions. It's just in the interest of transparency, which is the platform that the Teals ran on. But everyone else can make up their mind.
An excellent job there from Sky News' Laura Jays, although she shouldn't be apologising for that, and that was very reasonable and polite. In my day, we would have been a lot more vicious, I think. Once upon a time, PR kids wouldn't dare tell a reporter to go away like that. Again, accountability is core to healthy politics, and we must not reward politicians who run from a microphone or camera ever. They have a responsibility to be accountable. They're out there putting themselves out for vote. They need to answer the most basic and fundamental questions at all times, and they don't get to pick and choose what interviews they want to do when they feel like it. There are other alternatives to vote for than these people, especially given Australia's preferential voting system, under which your vote can never be wasted, as they say. You can vote for minor party candidates and then put your preferred major party after them. And if the minors don't win, your vote will still count for the major party that you put first up or highest up. Now, this is a really important part of our system that we don't hear enough about. And this week, we're speaking to minor party candidates Jordan Ditloff from the Libertarians, Senate candidate for Victoria, Senator Gerard Rennick for Queensland, formerly LNP and now with his own People's First Party, looking to hang on to his seat in the Senate, and Rob McMullan, a regular commentator on our show, running for Trumpet of Patriots. So Rob, I wanted to ask you, why did you decide to run with Clive Palmer's party? I know you ran for the UAP in a Brisbane City electorate at the last election, and you decided to stick with Clive again.
Yeah, look, I had a good experience last time. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about Clive and the people around him, but I've always had a great time, been treated with respect, and it's a very straightforward operation. And in my dealings with them the last 3 years, I think their heart's in the right place. I think they're actually genuine people. And I think there's people like Sue Ellen and Ralph are very passionate and genuine people. And I think they say exactly what they think. And I don't think there's any second layer there, to be honest. And I think there are some criticisms that are very valid about the party, which is why they don't stay active in between. I think the main thing is that everyone that is in the party actually works in Clive's businesses, and they do the politics as an add-on to a full-time job.
Right.
It's a lot of work, and everybody pitches in at election time. I think that could definitely change, but I'll have to say that I agree with the policies. I agree that we need to do something about the country. We've talked about immigration, housing, cost of living, even the social structure and demographics going forward in the country. I can safely say if we don't even have a population that's replacing itself, we don't have a functional society. And so on a personal level, for me, it's like I don't enjoy politics, but I think the costs of not engaging in politics when you have to are greater.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to get involved and why I do things.
All right,
and
I better put the question to the other guys too before we
Sure.
jump into our next topic. But Gerard, the LNP didn't re-endorse you. I don't want to dig up old history, but basically in a nutshell, you could just tell us quickly what happened, why you set up the party, what your objective is.
Well, I mean, I had 5 years as a senator. I got into politics to try and reform the taxation system and the monetary system and streamline the bureaucracy. That wasn't happening with the LNP. Obviously, it wasn't re-endorsed, and I thought, well, I may as well spend the last 8 months talking about policies that I want to talk about. And I think it's probably fair to say that we've got a much stronger set of policies than what the LNP has. And, you know, I mean, albeit it's one senator, we've come out with a number of good, strong policies like lifting the tax-free threshold to $40,000, voluntary superannuation, childcare paid directly to parents. You know, we want an infrastructure bank. No, you know, the neoliberals never jump up and down and say, you know, companies can't issue new shares out of thin air. Well, we need to issue infrastructure bonds, as Rob said before. We need to, basically, if we're going to issue credit, it needs to be secured against an asset. So we've got some good policies, and that's why I wanted to run and put those policies out there. We're getting brilliant feedback. I've had, you know, a lot of huge social media interaction in the last few months, and you know, it's just a shame that the Liberal Party doesn't have the courage to, you know, stand up for what it believes in. It has no vision, and that's what People First has. We have a vision, and we have the know-how to implement that vision.
That's an indictment of your former party, though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're weak and insipid. I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, Peter Dutton backflipped on the public servants. That was terrible. You know, their policies are all temporary. You know, $1,200 one-off rebate. You've got a $20,000 entertainment expense that lasts for 2 years, and the fuel excise cut, which I think lasts for 1 or 2 years as well. And then just before we shut down Parliament, they voted against an income tax cut for low-income earners, albeit it was only 16 cents to 14 cents. But income tax cut's a tax cut, right? You got to take it. And yet here they are. They're playing politics instead of standing up for their own principles, which, you know, as we saw throughout COVID. They just completely folded on allowing people to, you know, choose what they wanted to do and how they wanted to deal with their own health.
Yeah, we're going to come on to COVID in a moment. Jordan, just to you very quickly, what has been the inspiration for you to get into politics? You've had a very interesting past, which has been widely discussed in public. I think everybody in Victoria is aware of your turnaround, I guess, of your whole life and your redemption story, which I think is very impressive. But very, very quickly, the party itself and...
Yeah, well, Damian, I'm 38. I'm just at the threshold of a legal career that I had to fight tooth and nail to secure. And, you know, I'm hoping to start a family and, you know, really at that time in my life where this is probably the worst time objectively to run for politics and to sort of put all that on hold. But the reason I'm doing it is because I don't think we have 10 years. I don't share your sense of scepticism. I think that Dutton's goose is cooked. I think people will stop listening. And I think that we now have to think about how do we make sure 2028 is not a rerun of this, but worse. The people that are in the Liberal Party, as Gerard well knows, who will come after Dutton, are far, far worse. Dutton is the best of what's left. And we're going to be left with a Liberal Party that will look even more like the Labor Party in 2028. And I'm running, and the Libertarian Party are running, not just to take part, but to disrupt and take over the system. We need to be in a position where either individual minor parties or minor parties in coalition in a much more organised way than was achieved this time. I'm very proud of what Gerard and I and others were able to achieve with short notice in cooperation, but I think it needs to be starting immediately after the election plan for 2028. And we need to have a viable alternative to the LNP and to the coalition by 2028, because I'm really, really worried what it's going to look like.
All right. Well, I think I really want to have this discussion more deeply after the election, guys. I really do. I think it's a very important conversation, especially if they lose. But I'm still holding on to that little bit of optimism, or fair bit of optimism, that the voters out there. Well, I think they're going to vote for you guys. I really do, and maybe put the LNP as the next preference, and then that might get Dutton over the line this time. It might not, but we will see. But I think a lot of people out there are not being represented in our media and in our culture as much as they should be, but certainly the Liberal Party are running a bit scared, and that is a conversation for later. I want to get onto our topic, which we've now got 3 minutes left to talk about, which is not a small topic, but climate and energy policy I do want to just quickly touch on. So I'll give you a minute each on that, and I might start this time. We started with Gerard last time. I'll start with you this time, Jordan.
Yeah, look, just speaking of Monique Ryan, part of her dirt file on Amelia Hammer and Kooyong was our extreme policies, such as abandoning net zero renewable targets and, leaving the Paris Accord. And if those policies are extreme, then call me an extremist. I think that whatever you think about man-made climate change, and you don't have to be a climate skeptic to think that the policies we've got are running our country into the ground for no benefit. We've got China firing up new coal-fired power stations at a rate of knots. We're happy to export our brown coal to China. And we're fighting with one hand behind our back. We're a nation with resource abundance, but energy scarcity and incredibly costly energy and unreliable energy. We're like, Victoria's turning into that other Venezuela, where we're getting load shedding and brownouts in summer. It's just an absolute indictment. And Australia needs to take advantage of the fact that we are a nation with an immense amount of mineral and energy wealth.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? Already getting brownouts and blackouts, and people still don't get the fact that we're going to have a problem if we don't have any baseload power. Rob, your thoughts on Trumpeter Patriots?
Policy-wise, very much the same. I'll just mention at the Trumpet's party launch that we had a special message played from Tucker Carlson, and he, mentioned a lot of the natural resources and that we have in Australia, and really we should actually be the richest country in the world. And we're in a per capita recession, and that's because we're giving away our raw minerals way too cheap, and we're suffering under expensive and unreliable power. So yeah, we're very much the same. Exit Paris, abandon net zero, whatever mix of renewables, coal and nuclear, obviously repeal the nuclear ban. I'm always very skeptical when you have rolling gaslighting. So if you look at the conversation around nuclear power, it's like, oh, it's going to melt down. Well, now they're safe. Oh, okay, it's dangerous, or this, that, and then now the latest thing is, well, it's just going to take too long to build. I mean, so when
it's too expensive, I think, is the other thing that the analysis is showing that it's going to be more expensive. But I guess data in, garbage out with those analysis.
Well, that's right. But long term, though, over the next 100 years, is it more expensive?
Yeah, well, that's right.
And so that's a bad argument.
Yeah.
That's what I mean about rolling gaslighting. So I'm very skeptical of the people who are skeptical of nuclear.
Well, I think the answer comes from the market, right? And your background, Gerard, I suppose, would speak to that. The financial markets, and that's what free market's all about. It has a way of working this stuff out. I mean, people won't invest. But I think Albanese did say to Dutton in the, that people don't want to invest in nuclear in Australia.
Well, look, I mean, people won't invest in nuclear because, proper baseload power stations take years to develop, right? You've got a lot of approvals. I mean, the market won't sort this sort of stuff out because it's an inelastic choice. It's an inelastic supply, right? I mean, the average Joe on the street, you might be able to set up a fruit, sell fruit or become a baker or a butcher, but you can't set up a proper baseload power station, right? So I don't think the market is the solution here. I think what we need is the government to step in and actually build. When it comes to sovereign infrastructure, nuclear power stations, right? Why? Because there's inelasticity of choice. Ultimately, what we need, big baseload power stations that just get on with the job of providing cheap and reliable energy. What we do need to do, our energy policy just mimics our monetary policy, our taxation system, our immigration system, where we put foreign interests in front of domestic interests. We're shutting down our locally sourced power supplies, coal, gas, and not using nuclear. And we're bringing in foreign-made renewables that are 70% owned by foreigners. Let's go back to using our baseload power stations. There's 400 million tonnes of coal out there at my hometown of Chinchilla. There's another turbine pad sitting there. Let's put these power stations on top of our coal beds and go back to burning coal and get it out to the public as cheaply as possible.
We need that baseload power. Wind and solar are never going to be able to provide that baseload power.
That's exactly right.
Unless we have a battery infrastructure. Why can't we go down that route?
Well, as you said, I mean, you need batteries and massive batteries, and there's not enough rare earths in the world, lithium, etc., to actually build all the batteries required to provide enough backup energy.
So they're not that clean.
And it's not that clean, no. And I mean, I say this in my stump speeches. Look, if you want to drive a Tesla or have some solar panels on your roof, that's fine, right? But don't tell me that, you're saving the planet, and don't use my taxpayers' dollars to subsidise your choices.
Bingo.
Right? So at the end of the day, we've really got to stop lying about this and get real. It's not just the whole renewable argument is completely flawed to begin with. But not only that, we're selling out our own country and selling out our children by putting these foreign renewables in front of domestically supplied coal, gas, and what we should be using is nuclear as well.
I think a lot of what people don't understand is that the cost of energy is the cost of everything. So it's a fundamental underlier of inflation, period, right? We don't have cheap energy, we are in big trouble. And also that, renewables aren't reliables. And we need to have that baseload power or we're in serious trouble. But there's also the defence question, right? We're putting ourselves at risk a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We will be back in just a moment. We're speaking to 3 of our minor party candidates on the minor party panel number 1. We'll be doing another one next week on the other side. Stay with us. I want to tell you about a fantastic initiative that's happening out of Canberra right now. It's called the Awards for Men in Leadership. The awards are given out on International Men's Day, which is November 19. They're designed to combat the increasing denigration of masculinity in our culture and the widespread discrimination against males inside and outside the workplace. The goal is to lift the well-being of boys and men and facilitate healthy collaboration between men and women. The awards for men in leadership are designed to inspire men to make a bigger contribution to family and community and to elevate positive male role models. There's a $10,000 scholarship for studies and professional development, public recognition for the winners, and a year of mentorship and executive coaching for each recipient. It's targeted at young men and middle-aged guys who fought their way up from some other kind of disadvantage. This is the 3rd year of the awards and it'll be the biggest yet. To find out more, just search up the Awards for Men in Leadership on Facebook. That was a segment from a recent episode of our fortnightly news commentary show, The Other Side, with me, Damian Curry. If you liked it, support us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube right now so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free. Just click that subscribe button and the little bell. And check out our Other Side Unplugged show too, and join our mission to actually do something and change Aussie media for the better at othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Check it out now.